Good evening. I'm Jeff Wyman, Dean of the Becton College of Arts and Sciences, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here tonight on this beautiful evening for a discussion on the value of a liberal arts degree. You know, recently there have been many questions raised about just this subject. Is going to college still worth the money that it costs? Is majoring in a specific area a good investment for long-term career success? And particularly that question has been asked about those who major in the liberal arts. In fact, majors in the humanities and the social sciences have become targets for special scrutiny and potential budget cuts. There was a report that was issued very recently, actually within the last week or two, called How Liberal Arts and Science Majors Fare in Employment. And the focus of that report is precisely on that topic. But the individuals who wrote that report also argue that studying the liberal arts, studying the humanities and the social sciences, in addition to preparing you for various employment opportunities, provide you with skills that transcend any one job and provide you with such skills as critical thinking, oral communications, cultural diversity, writing and analytical skills. And they make a case for that, as well as looking at the reality that students who major in the liberal arts, in the humanities, in the social sciences do find jobs and, in fact, in the long term, do very, very well. There was an article written recently by the president of Colorado College, Jill Heckinger, and what she said was that a rapidly changing world means that young people will need to know the value of seeing things from different perspectives and be experts in collaboration and communication. She also emphasizes the importance of being comfortable with different cultures and ideas, and again, having skills in writing and speaking. One of the things she says that I think is most important is that there's a difference between education and training. And while certainly some training is appropriate in particular fields because you want to be ready to be able to function effectively when you go out into the world, college is not primarily about training. It is about education. A liberal education, she says, educates the whole person and prepares students to excel in a range of careers. Well, tonight we're going to hear from some of our successful alums who majored in a range of disciplines, including theater, political science, graphic design, and creative writing. And we're also fortunate to have on the panel with us tonight Professor Gary Darden, an historian from our Department of Social Sciences and History, and he'll share some of his experiences as well. So I want to start by having each panelist introduce himself or herself and tell you something about their current positions. Then I'm going to ask the panelists a few questions, and then finally, and most importantly, I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask some questions of our panel. So let's start by introducing the panel. As I mentioned, well, let's go this way. We have Luther Quackenbush, and I'm not going to tell you what his background is because he will. We have Professor Gary Darden, John Saavedra, Danielle Lindner, and Rosemary Glennon. So why don't we start with you, Rosemary? Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, and then we'll subsequently talk about your experiences here and how they influenced your work.
Sure. So my name is Rosemary Glennon. I graduated here in 2011 with a degree in theater arts and a concentration in acting. I also had a minor in literature. Currently, I am working as a professional actress. I'm a member of the Actors Union, Equity, and working within New Jersey and in New York on multiple different shows in different realms of the theater, different sides of the stage, that sort of thing. Yep.
Hi, I'm Danielle Lindner. I graduated in '93. I had a political science degree, and then I did a master's here in elementary education. I'm currently the founder and director of an enrichment-based preschool and kindergarten, and I am also writing children's books based on character education.
I'm John Saavedra. I graduated in 2013. I have a bachelor's in creative writing. I am a freelance writer and also an editor for, I'm the books editor at The Literary Review, which is right down the street. And it's your wonderful literary magazine, so you should all pick it up and read it. Seriously. I'm also the assistant editor for the game section at Den of Geek, which is a nerd culture site. So for the students here, if you've heard of IGN or Game Informer, I'm a video game journalist. I'm going to PAX in April. I'm going to E3 in June. So it's a pretty cool job, and you know, it just kind of shows what you can do with liberal arts, with a liberal arts degree in terms of writing. You know, I was creative writing, but I was also a minor in literature and journalism, and you know, all those kinds of things have really, I've been able to, you know, use those in my current positions.
Hello, I'm Gary Darden, and I did not graduate in 2013. But I am an associate professor of history. I do American history. And I went to school undergrad at a small liberal arts college. I went pre-law, thinking I wanted to be a lawyer. And once I got into the program, I realized I really don't want to be a lawyer, and I really don't want to major in political science, although I had a lot of political science courses. I loved history, and that's the path I chose. And I remember the dean of students looked at me and said, "What's your favorite subject?" And I said, "History." He goes, "Well, what do you get the best grades in?" And I said, "History." He said, "In a liberal arts setting, that should be your major, because that is where, if you have a passion for a subject, you're going to maximize the value of that education. And you'll unfold different passions, and you'll maybe, a career will unfold." And for me, of course, I went on to get a master's in history, went on to get a PhD in history. And when I went on the marketplace, even though my PhD was from Rutgers, a very large public university, I chose Becton College and the campus at Madison specifically because it is essentially a small liberal arts college parked within a large public university. Private university, excuse me, pardon me.
All right. I'm Luther Quackenbush. I graduated here from 2006. I majored in film and animation. Currently, I'm working at Pixelite Digital Media. We're a company that works with sales reps and medical technology kind of projects, varying degrees of work, and my degree has definitely helped me to get where I am now.
Okay, so why don't we start with a few questions, and we can expand on some of the comments you've made so far. My first question for the panel is, how did your liberal arts education prepare you for your personal and professional future? And notice I've said personal and professional. So if you'd like to address that, who would like to start?
I'll start. All right. So in getting a liberal arts education, it's studying this bigger picture. It's giving you this more well-rounded kind of education within the arts. And the arts are a huge part of our culture. And so I always think about how on somebody's off day, not everybody, but most people don't put together a car engine on their off day, you know? They don't do manual labor on their off day. They indulge in the arts. They go to the theater, they go to the symphony, they read books, they do that sort of thing. And so on a personal level, I think a liberal arts degree, something where I studied an art, it has made me a more well-rounded person because I can really appreciate these different aspects of our culture, these things that we all indulge in. And then professionally, it's helped me because I'm a part of that culture and because it gave me a degree and a foundation to be completely involved within that artistic culture.
Okay, we'll come back to you for more later. Fine. Danielle, would you like to comment on that?
Well, not only being short,
Probably.
I was a political science major, so even though it was liberal arts, it seemed like it was a little more pigeonholing. However, as part of being a political science major, I had to do a lot of writing, I had to do a lot of critical thinking, and I had to learn how to be a good arguer. In my personal life, that really helps because I'm the mother of 2 girls. So arguing is excellent if you have that skill. Being a wife, it's really good to know how to critically think and win an argument. So that always is helpful in your personal life. But also starting a business. I decided, like Gary, I didn't want to be an attorney, although arguing would have been helpful there. I wanted to run a business, and part of that is knowing how to write a good business plan. So having a lot of classes in English really helped me. Also, being a critical thinker. I deal with the public every day, with students and parents. So being able to critically think and think quickly on your feet and have answers to tough questions is really important every day in my life. And also by being a liberal arts major, I was able to take classes in public speaking, which really helps when you're trying to give a tour at a school to a parent that says, why should I pick your school? Believe it or not, parents of 2-year-olds are really tough customers. And sometimes it's like Bridgegate, trying to sway them on why they should choose your school over another school. So I just felt that I actually started out as a business major, and I didn't really do that great in accounting. But I think that overall, having the knowledge of a lot of different things really helps me every day in my personal and professional life.
Thank you. John?
This one's back at the court.
Yeah, so great answers, by the way. So you took all my answers. No, I do think that, getting a liberal arts education really kind of sets the foundation that you kind of build upon. And what I like so much about my education at Fairleigh Dickinson was that it was so interdisciplinary. And there's nothing more interdisciplinary than, working on a novel. That's super daunting. You have to know everything about everything to work on a novel, and you have to know how to, research random things. So, I've been researching crocodiles for forever, actually. I'm working on a novel about crocodiles, and not about crocodiles, but it has crocodiles in it. And it's really important to be able to understand how to approach science and how to approach, sociology and, all the different kinds of things that you learn here that, as a student, I was sitting where you guys are last year, and, sometimes you feel like, why am I learning this, and why am I being forced to approach a certain thing that, you're not here to do. But when it comes down to it, all these things do help, and, I think life is interdisciplinary, and you're going to face so many different things that, this kind of education does help you with. So I guess in a very broad sense, that's kind of the personal gain. And in terms of professionally, well, I'm a writer, I'm a full-time writer, so like I said, it's something that takes knowing a lot about everything. Yeah, so you took all my answers, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just it's very good to have common knowledge about a lot of things and to have a broader sense of the world and a broader sense of art, especially like you said, if you're a part of it. I don't like to call myself an artist, but if you have an appreciation for it, it definitely does open your eyes, and it kind of helps you. Like I was talking to Professor Rebecca Chase, she's a wonderful professor in the creative writing program, and we were discussing how something as simple as like stepping out of your comfort zone and sharing your work and discussing your work and getting workshopped, all those things don't come naturally to you. You're not used to when you're leaving high school and working on creative pieces that you think are the bomb, but they're really not, because nothing you write in high school is super daunting to older people. But getting workshopped is definitely something that you get used to, and taking criticism and learning how to, in terms of creative writing, how to approach it as a craft, not as something that's just fun, which is still fun, but you're creating something, you're creating a work of art, you're creating something bigger than yourself, and I think that's something that you can't get anywhere else but at a liberal arts college, so.
I think I very much agree with Danielle that when you get into these disciplines that you hopefully have a passion for, is that you're really learning to read, write, analyze, argue, critique, and speak, as I steal your little menu there. But I think that for students that aren't history majors in my class, I don't see myself as simply being their history professor. History just happens to be the discipline in which they're in that class, they're going to learn to do those certain things. If one of my students is in, one of my colleagues, Trish Malloy in the back, who teaches biology, if they're in one of her biology classes as a non-major, she's not just there to teach them biology. Biology just happens to be the discipline by which she's going to learn those set of skill sets from a different discipline. I mean, I really think a liberal arts degree is the best all-around degree. If you know you want to be a nurse, or you know you want to be an engineer, there are programs for that, and we have them here at FDU. But for a lot of people in this country, they don't know what they want to be. And they're going to change careers, not jobs, careers 3 or 4 times at a minimum. So if you're going to study accounting and all of a sudden you don't want to be an accountant, you're going to be at a disability in the marketplace, because all you're going to be hired for is an accountant. If you come into a liberal arts degree and you take this broad array of courses and you hopefully find that major that you have a passion for, whether it be political science or creative writing or so forth, you're going to get more out of the degree. Just to give you an idea, of the Fortune 500 executives, the most popular undergraduate degree is liberal arts. And you rack them up, you're going to see literature, history, economics. You don't see accounting. You don't see engineering. They're there, but they're not the dominant majors. On the Supreme Court, four of the 9 justices have a history degree, 1 has a lit degree, 1 has a poli-sci degree, 1 has an economics degree. Welcome to Becton.
Wow. I think it's going to be hard following that up, but I'll try my best. I'm going to take you through my experience coming out of FDU, what it was like to now, and basically what FDU did for me. Coming into FDU, I was scared. I was overwhelmed. And you see inspiration in everything you watch on TV, you read in magazines. And you get to a school and you say, well, I have to become that up there. How am I going to get there? It's usually not an individual project. It's not usually your idea from start to finish. It's group work. It's being able to communicate with people. It's speaking what you need to get across. It's a lot of different skills that you may not actually have when you come into college. And you say, I was just going to bury myself in the basement and work on my thesis, starting in year 1. And believe me, if you want to do that, that's great. But you do have to come to the surface and present your work to someone. And they will critique it, believe me. One of the greatest things I can say to you as people out there is question everything. And that's what my degree helped me to do, is question everything I'm doing and everything I see. Because if you're not questioning yourself, you're not questioning where you're going in life, you will meander. And that's what this degree gave me, is a direction. So by really studying where I wanted to be, it guides you to the path that you need to be going on. And besides that, if you can't communicate and you can't work with others, it's going to be at your disadvantage. So going to classes that I personally didn't think were going to influence me as much as they did, one would be the public speaking course. I was like, all right, I have to get in front of a lot of people and talk for a finite amount of time, thank God. But I was nervous and I wasn't thinking straight. But through that course, I learned to incorporate what I was learning in my major courses into that work. So I'm not just up here speaking, I'm also speaking about something I love. And then you turn that love into something more. And that's what I think a liberal arts degree would definitely gives you.
Thank you, Luther. That was a very good response and follow-up. And based on what your last comment was, I'm going to ask you to, for the rest of the panel, to talk a little bit about courses outside of your major that helped you, influenced you, gave you insights that you wouldn't have had. Courses outside of your major. Who would like to pick up on that? Well, Luther.
Well, since I was talking, I'll get back on the mic and start talking again. Let's take another course altogether. Let's take the core curriculum. I know everyone out there knows core, and you're all sitting there going, yeah, core, I know. But what will surprise you is when you meet up with alumni, you'll end up talking about those courses with them. Oh, do you remember having that teacher? Do you remember having those moments where you're like, why are we reading this book with this book? They're totally different ideologies. And it's like, it really opens up a lot of gateways because you'll be talking to someone and they'll be like, yeah, in my core class I was reading this, and in my core class I was reading that. But there's a common denominator in that you were reading something that you wouldn't pick off the shelf. And hands down, opening your eyes to something you would never do is what a liberal arts degree really means to me. It's going out there, trying something totally different. And I would say that though you dread it now, you will revel in it later.
You know, that's very interesting because so many students and even faculty, we have, for those of you in the audience who are not from FDU, we have a core curriculum across the university that all students take. It's 4 courses. It's in the process of being modified now, but all students take that, and students tend to complain about it. But what I have found, speaking with alums, is that many of them, in retrospect, think that those courses were among the most challenging and helpful to them, not while they were taking it necessarily, but subsequently. Anyone else? Please.
Now that you mention it about core classes, those really are, I think back on certain classes and I never think of them as, oh, well, that was a core class, but I think back on them all the time. I think one of my core classes in particular really opened my eyes about how we see and treat each other. It was perspectives on the individual. And wow, I think about that class all the time without even realizing it until you mentioned that. But I also took a sociology class that I found out like halfway through the year that I didn't take the prerequisite, like the 101 sociology class, but somehow I got into this higher level one that was really, really difficult. And it forced me to sit down and read the book every night. It wasn't the kind where you had to read these chapters and you could kind of just wing it and you said, oh, I read it, I read it. I really had to sit down and read this book, and it was so intellectual. It was so much a challenge for me. And I did very well in that class because I had to really discipline myself and challenge myself and take it seriously. And now all the time I find myself in situations, like just to bring it back to my career, with a script that's difficult. Right now I'm working on this script that is so wordy and so difficult, and I find myself making time every day to sit down with it. And I think I learned that from taking courses here that were just hard, that you weren't in your major, that weren't necessarily interesting to you, that didn't, you didn't look forward to it every day. You didn't go home thinking, I can't wait to read that textbook. And you had to sit down and do it. And it really gave me a sense of self-discipline and a work ethic that I know helps me all the time now.
Great, good example. Anyone else? Danielle?
I needed a couple extra credits, so I probably did what many of you do, and you ask around and say, who's an easy professor? Where can I get a quick A? And one of them was a marketing professor. It wasn't in my major, but he was supposedly an easy teacher, and I had a very heavy course load. So I took a course in marketing. I am so glad I took that class. It was so interesting, and it really focused on branding. And now having my own business, branding is so important. It's what I do every day. Every day you have to really think about your brand. And he would teach you about that your brand is not just your logo, your brand is not just, say, a commercial, your brand is you, your brand are people that work for you, your brand are people that use your product. And I think about that all the time now, and I really think that class really helped me today. Those 3 little credits that I really didn't need to take, they weren't part of my liberal arts degree, really helped me every day building my brand. And I think that it's good to, if you can take an accounting class and you can throw in a marketing class, it can really help you if you do decide that you want to do something entrepreneurial.
I think that's a good point. Being a liberal arts major doesn't mean you shouldn't expose yourself to other areas of study, and taking a course in marketing or management, for example, can often be a very good idea if you're in the arts, if you're in the sciences, if you're in the social sciences. A couple of those courses can be very useful and helpful as well. So while we're talking about the value of a liberal arts degree, I think it is important to be very open to courses even outside of the liberal arts that will supplement what you're doing. John, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, one class I took that wasn't something that I think I immediately enjoyed, but I enjoy thinking about now and I have fond memories of, was a class, I think it was called The Study of Pop Culture, and it was a communication course, and or it was called Writing for Pop Culture, but I was lied to because there was no writing. It was, you know, it was taught by the great Christopher Sorrentino. He was the visiting writer back in 2011, and you know, this guy came and like dropped some knowledge about pop culture. You know, he dropped terms like simulacra and the instantiation of American bogus values. You know, say that 5 times fast. And you know, it was all about, you know, how I guess media is packaged for, you know, for consumption, for, you know, the viewer's consumption. You know, and it got you really thinking about, you know, different things and how, you know, they're packaged and, you know, how they're presented, you know, for easier intake. And, you know, we learned about how television had affected writing, you know, novels and things like that. There was an essay by David Foster Wallace, and we learned, we got in depth about Star Wars, which is really interesting, which you wouldn't expect. But, you know, so you learn about all these, I learned all about all these different ways that culture is packaged and the way that culture is presented, and, you know, what our media says about us. And that was really interesting, and, you know, as a writer, that's, you know, really good information to have and to know.
Thank you. Gary?
I would just add to this, and you hear a lot of these alumni talking about these other courses that influence them. These are perfect venues for you to pick a minor. So that a history major could minor in business, a theater major could minor in literature. When I was a senior, I was doing the same thing that Daniel was doing. I had my honors thesis. It was going to kill me. It was going to be 60 pages of writing. I said, I've got to do something that does not involve a lot of reading and writing. So I took drawing with Professor Lewis. I thought, this is going to be a cakewalk. It was not. He clobbered me. But I will say this, going into that studio 2 days a week with charcoal and pencils and going out into the field and drawing buildings and people, I learned so much about areas of my brain that I had never used before. And to this day, I don't walk in a room or walk in a garden or walk in an art museum without thinking about what Professor Lewis taught me in the spring of 1991. So the thing about liberal arts that's great is you have this opportunity through general education, through minors, study abroad, to explore disciplines outside of your major. And I hope that you find a second passion. My regret is I wish I had more time to take more studio art classes, and it was into my senior year, and it didn't happen. That's my regret.
Thank you. You know, one of the things that we do know is that individuals change their majors many times, and they change their careers over a period of time. I know for a fact that Danielle Lindner certainly changed her career choices. I think some of the others on the panel haven't done that yet and may not do that. They may be perfectly happy with what they do. But Danielle, could you talk a little bit about where you were headed and how you changed your career focus?
Sure. Well, when I graduated, I was planning on heading to law school. And then I decided I would rather go to Parsons and be a graphic designer. And then when I got accepted to law school and for graphic design, I decided I didn't want to do either of those things. So I decided that I would go get a job and just see what might suit my fancy. And I think one of the great things about a liberal arts degree is that you can try a lot of different things. And so I sort of stuck with that. And I had a number of different jobs. I did a graphic design job. I was an account executive for an advertising firm. I did some writing for a drug company. And then I thought that I would like to go back to school. Because sometimes you just can't figure out where you want to be. And you decide, well, the safe place is to go back to school. So I went back for a Master's of Arts in Teaching, and I went and got a job as a kindergarten teacher. And then I had two children, or I had a child, and I left, and at the same time my husband was starting his own company, which had nothing to do with teaching. It had to do with recruiting and human resources. And one of the jobs that I did to pay for my master's degree was be a headhunter. And so I decided that I would work with him. So for 14 years, I was working in the corporate world as the director of operations for the Workplace Group, which actually now has become an international company with over 125 employees. But being the liberal arts person that I am, I decided that that wasn't where I wanted to stay. My true love and passion was teaching. And now that I had two children and I was working and I couldn't find a school that really offered them everything that I thought a school should offer children, like other than reading and math, they should have drama and music and science, really a liberal arts education for toddlers. I created a school. So it took me a while to get to where I really wanted to be, but I think that's okay. And I think as a liberal arts major, you get that opportunity to experience all different things and then try a lot of things, and it's okay to try a lot of things until you land where you ultimately want to be. And actually part of the logo of my school, there's a butterfly, and the butterfly really signifies being able to fly to fly all over the place and try different things and try the arts and try drama and try literature and try science, and it's okay. So don't be afraid if you graduate and you don't know what you want to do.
I don't know if anyone else on the panel has a similar kind of story about different career choices. So I think, yes.
Real quick. I don't have a story like that. I've only been out for a few years, but I have been thinking a lot about that. I've been having one of those life crises where I am like, well, what if there's something else I want to do? What if there's... And so what I've been thinking about a lot, especially in terms of this panel and about a liberal arts degree, is that it's important to keep in mind the bigger picture of your degree. That you're not necessarily, especially as an acting major, going to graduate and then go into a job at some firm. It's a career position. I'll be there forever. I'll become partner. Like, that's not in my future. That's not what my industry is like. So I've been trying to keep in mind, and it's hard, you got to think about it every day, to think about the bigger picture of what a liberal arts degree does for you and all of the things that it gives you and all of the doors that it opens for you and keeps open throughout your life because you have this foundation, this education that's so strong and so well-rounded.
Thank you, thank you. Now I'm going to throw a sort of strange question at you, and that is, you spoke about the courses that you took outside of your major that influenced you, but if you could do it again, given your life experience, what courses do you think you might want to take that you didn't take? Who'd like to tackle that one first?
I'll jump in, I guess,
Okay,
unless somebody
please.
else. I would take a business course, absolutely, because the way I have to market myself, I'm sort of my own small business in acting, and I'm my product, and I'm my boss, and I'm my manager. I have to make my schedules, I have to do my finances, I have to market myself, and I would have loved to have taken a business course. I think about it all the time, even just so I had a foundation of knowing what kind of things you should be thinking about as the head honcho sort of
Right,
of your
right.
product.
Okay, good, good. Anyone else? Luther? We'll get a microphone to you.
I've been thinking about this ever since I got the email to join the panel, and I definitely have resolved myself to a psychology course. Being an animator, you got to get in the mind of who you are and who your character is. And I would love to just study more of the mannerisms of human life and how people interact with each other, and what does, Freud think of this? And it all comes back to psychology. And if I were to come back, I'd definitely take a psychology course.
Very, very interesting. Anyone else? Now let's see if
Creative
the professor
writing.
regrets not taking any course.
Creative writing that I actually wrote. I wrote so many history papers and philosophy and literature and stuff. I wish I had done some original creative writing. And I think it would have made me a better nonfiction writer.
Very interesting. Very good.
And more art.
Did you want to add something, John?
Sure. So I would have taken a marketing course. I know Luther said earlier that starting undergrad is scary and overwhelming. Well, leaving undergrad is scary and overwhelming. That doesn't really change. When I graduated last May and I applied to, countless and countless jobs, and I think I took the first one that hired me because I was just so excited to have a job. It was for a marketing firm for this this private company that did private equity conferences, and I was the marketing assistant, and I had to all of a sudden know how to write marketing copy and pretend like I knew how things should look on a piece of paper, which is it's actually really intense to know how things look on a piece of paper in terms of selling something to someone. So I definitely would have taken a marketing course. As great as creative writing was for that career, it was very helpful because those kind of firms definitely look for creative writers. But I had no idea of the business and kind of the brand as
Putting it together.
talked about. Yeah, putting it together. So I would have definitely taken a marketing course.
Very good. I'd like to open the discussion up to the audience now and give you an opportunity to comment on anything our panelists have said or to ask them some questions. So,
Could comment on what you said about liberal arts transitioning into business. I actually hit that crossroads my junior year, where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be a lawyer. I was poli-sci all the way. Right. Went to then professor, now provost, Woolley, and said, well, I got to change to a business major. I got to go into marketing. I want to work in sports. And he went through my check sheet, went through, he's like, Glenn, you're halfway to if I told you you're halfway to a double minor, a double major with economics, that would qualify as a business degree. And it's like, what are you talking about? It's like, take 2 marketing courses and call me in the morning, was basically what he told me. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, everything you took leading up to this point, even substituting your math with a computer class, built you to be able to take that as a double major. And when my time came to leave, I ended up working in sports for 8 years through actually career services, all through that working in sports, and did it all without changing my majors and only had to take a semester more. So it really, even though you're in a liberal arts, that liberal arts can make it easily convertible even if you think you have to switch to a business major or a science major.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Yes, please.
Do you have any advice for people majoring in for a video game track?
Do you have any advice for people majoring in the video game track?
Good with me.
Oh, here.
Yeah. All right, for an outside perspective. Okay. competition is fierce, originality is golden, and also prepare to be very busy. What kind of game are you thinking of going into? Are you just going into graphics of games, scripting games, computer programming?
More animation.
More animation? Okay. So basically, I would say the best thing to prepare you for that is not only learning the programs that are current and now, because they're always changing. Basics are the key right now. If you can light texture and be efficient in that, you're almost there. Getting yourself a foot in the door doesn't hurt. Interning, taking your free time and using it not just for coursework, but also to go out there and see if they need a hand testing something. Because if you have a foot in the door, it always helps. The only other thing I would recommend is if you haven't started thinking about programming at all, I would definitely take a little bit of programming too.
I also think doing internships is important. And I don't know, what year are you in?
I'm junior.
Okay, well, I think if you haven't done an internship, you should consider doing that, because that opens so many doors, especially for liberal arts majors. If you can get into an operation and certainly show your skills and develop new skills, many internships turn into regular jobs subsequently, or they provide you with the experience that helps you move into another job. So I think internships for liberal arts majors are very important. A good idea. Someone else? Yes?
I just want to add to the last panelist. Ryan said he wants to do programming. That's what we need.
Okay, so let me just repeat that in essence. Professor Sinha has recommended that, and I think it's a very good idea, that if you're in video game design and such, taking a course or two in programming can be very useful, and I think that's a very good point. I know that the computer science faculty offer a course in app development, for example, and that's a wonderful course to take along with the kind of work you're doing that will give you more technical insights that can always be useful. So thank you. Yes, Professor Barkley.
I'd just like to mention game tracking, but on another note, I wanted to ask, did you have an internship, and if so, how did that help you?
Very good
get where you
question.
were?
Good question. Let me repeat it. Did any of you have an internship, and how helpful was that?
I had 2 internships. The first one was at IBM, which made it very clear to me that I didn't want to work for IBM. And the second one was and I was in the marketing department, and the second one was at Jersey Central Power and Light, which made it very clear to me that I didn't want to work for Jersey Central Power and Light. What it really means is I knew that I didn't want to work in corporate America. And I think that was really important to know, because I didn't waste a lot of time pursuing a big job in corporate America. I knew that the politics that happened just in my small little group of interns wasn't something that I wanted to deal with. And it was important to find that out. And I also got a lot of experience learning what it was like to try and make your way through that corporate politics. So the internship experience was really valuable. I also, at our school, we also have a lot of interns that are interested in becoming teachers, and I have to say that we really value and respect them for doing an internship. And we offer most of them are offered positions and jobs when they're done interning. So if you are fortunate enough to intern at a company that you really love, it really gives you an open door to possibly get a job.
Anyone else? Luther.
Obviously, I interned at the place I'm at right now, and it was about 2 or 3 weeks, I would say, of an internship. I was a senior, and I was, you know, had gone to other places and tried different places out, and some of it was like, you know, you go into someone's basement and you're like, okay, is this really a place or am I going to get hit in the head? But other places were a lot nicer, and this one was one of the nicest ones. So I get in there, and I'm sweating, I'm wearing my suit, and the boss comes over, and for one, he's not wearing a tie, he doesn't have a jacket on, he lays back and he goes, oh, what a day. What can you do for my company? And you know, you're taken back from that initial interview from an internship. You're filing through your resume. Well, I really love this company. I see that on your website you have, and you're sweating and whatnot. But when you get that job, you're going to be so much more comfortable than that first day. And interning with them, I got to see the personalities I'm working with before I sign up for the job and get the paycheck or the freelance job. Because if I hadn't interned for that and I didn't know all the personalities I'd be dealing with, I probably would have bounced pretty quick. The thing is, they gave me an opportunity, and I used every iota of it to show them I was the best I could be. They sat me down at a computer, they said, here, these are all the programs we use. I want you to design a logo. I want you to make something move. I want to see how you animate. I want to see how you do this. And you have 15 minutes. So talk about, you know, an opening that you have to succeed on. It's high pressure in some respects, but it's worth every minute of it. So I definitely recommend going on an internship and seeing what it's like out there.
Good, good. Have any of you in the audience had internships? Who's had an internship? Would any of you tell us what that experience was like for you, if it was interesting? Please. And try to speak up.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I'm a senior web design major, and my current internship has recently turned into a full-time position for me after graduation. And I feel like I've learned so much just in the field of designing through this internship. And now moving forward with the company, it's just really taught me a lot about what I'm passionate about. And being in a liberal arts degree, learning more about marketing and advertising has also helped me a lot. So overall, it's just been a great experience.
Great, thank you for sharing it. Anyone else who'd like to share their experiences? Anyone else?
Jeff, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
I'm impressed with all the students in the graphic design. I want to add a follow-up question. What classes outside of graphic design have proven, in the liberal arts setting, have proven useful to your career? Either for your internship or for your job.
Okay.
Well, I have to say, like, more advertising, marketing courses, and also I've used a lot of stuff from core, like, and public speaking, just to help me with my overall experience. So.
Very good, thank you.
Right here.
All right, I'll elaborate on that. One of the quirkiest courses I thought I would never be taking was feminist views in a modern woman. Obviously, my girlfriend took the course. I said, yes, I'll do it. And so I'm at Roxton College, and I'm taking a tutorial, which is like a one-on-one session with you have a panel on one side, a panel on the other, and you argue over a topic. And we were talking about should fathers have rights to children versus mothers, and a huge debate about childcare and why do mothers get more leniency in courts than men. I said something about, well, they should have daycare that, daddies can drop off their kids too. And the woman across from me stands up and she looks at me dead in the eye and she says, "How dare you?" And that whole experience of being a man in a woman's world for once, I'll tell you, it changed my thoughts a lot.
Very good. Great. You mentioned Roxton, which is interesting because that's a wonderful experience that's especially available to liberal arts majors. And have any of you in the room here been to Roxton yet? I'm sure that it was a great experience because I haven't met anyone who thought it wasn't. You were at Roxton, maybe, and you've been there certainly, Gary. Gary, do you want to talk a little bit about the Roxton experience?
I took some students over there. I escorted the students over there in fall 2008, and I loved it so much. I've been taught there twice.
Now, let me interrupt you for 1 second for the sake of other audiences that may see this. Roxton is our own campus, our FDU campus in Roxton, England, near Banbury. And students can go there for a semester. They can go there during the summer as well. And Gary, I'm sorry to have interrupted.
No worries. It's 56 acres in rural Oxfordshire in the village of Roxton, and it's a Jacobean manor house that belonged to Lord North, Prime Minister during the Revolution. That's my little history take on that. But what's brilliant about that is the absolute small scale that it is a British model. It's taught by British faculty. The classes are very small. We're talking 4, 5, 6 to no more than 12, maybe 20. You take a theater class, you go see live theater. You take a British art history class, you go to art museums. You study British government, you go to Parliament. It's an incredibly special place, and I loved it so much that thanks to the support of the Dean's office, I spent my sabbatical there. I was faculty scholar in residence, one of the best semesters of my life. And my biggest regret as an undergrad is that I didn't go overseas. Had I gone to, say, Vienna or Munich, I probably would have been proficient in German, and I might have been teaching modern European history instead of modern US. But I think that liberal arts foundation of courses is superb for you to go overseas and study. By the way, I didn't do an internship. I shaved my head, grew a beard, and backpacked in Europe for 4 months. That was my internship.
Yes, Dean Feely.
I would say also that a strong liberal arts education makes you a more desirable social person. And there are many jobs that you get through social contact. So the more you can talk about the disciplines that other people have studied, what you've been exposed to, makes you much more versatile and very valuable.
That's a very good point. You know, especially as you move up the career ladder, social interaction becomes increasingly important, and the ability to talk about a whole range of things makes you a more interesting person and a better companion. So yeah, I think that's a very good point. Any other questions from the audience? Yes?
Since we, in this modern climate, change careers so many times, what do you think is the most important skill a liberal arts education gives in that climate?
Good question. Anyone want to take that?
I think adaptability. If you can adapt to various things and experiences, and also, like Dean Feely had said, deal with different people. You know, being a liberal arts major, you're also, you deal with people that are really artists. You work with people that are really artists. You work with people that are more in political science. You work with people in history. And so you become adaptable, and you also learn how to get along with people that might have different political views that you have. And in any work environment, you're going to have people that agree with you and don't agree with you. So if you learn how to relate and socialize with all different types of people that have all different viewpoints, then you'll probably be successful in almost any career or job that you try.
Thank you.
I think it makes you a mature citizen. I'm not disparaging if someone studies accounting for 4 years or someone studies nursing. Those jobs are useful and valuable. But you know, for me, studying biology, taking ethics, taking German lit, taking philosophy, taking drawing, all these things I think develop as many sort of rooms in your brain and makes you flexible, makes you, and I think when I tell my students in history, the greatest tool an historian can have is empathy. To look at some historical data or an historical moment and have empathy. I think this is true watching a play. I think it's true going into a lab and looking at environmental science. I think it's true looking at, I had an ethics class in college. And when I sat in that class my senior year as a 4,000 level philosophy, everything I talking about social Darwinism, biology classes, the ethics of art, the ethics of literature, the impact of novels, Marx, Wilson, all those things would come into play here. I think it's about making you to build on what Daniel said, a flexible, adaptive, and mature and empathetic citizen.
Thank you. I think one of the messages we've heard this evening is that life is interdisciplinary, and a liberal arts education is interdisciplinary. It prepares you for life in so many of its aspects, personally, socially, professionally. I thank you all for being here tonight, and let's thank our panel, Professor Gary Darden, Rosemary Glennon, Danielle Lindner, Luther Quackenbush, and John Saavedra. And thank you all for joining us